We're left at 130, next to the bottom paragraph. Page 130. Okay, Chovos HaLevavos. V'im hoya noig ha-sefer shemitargem inyan hazeh. We've been discussing that although God has no form, and we attribute many human traits or feelings or emotions to Hashem, that's only the way we relate to God. God has no eyes, He has no hands, although we speak about Yad Chazaka. In the readings now, His outstretched hand, His powerful arm. It's only for us to be able to relate to Him in a way that we're able to serve Him. Otherwise, He's totally removed from our minds. We have no frame of reference to relate to Him whatsoever. If He's referred to in a way, in His true sense, where we use terminologies which describe His infinite characteristics, infinite. And only the person who has that special level of understanding could relate to that on this ethereal level. So most human beings are going to be devoid of what? Of religion and Torah. Because of their limitation, their limited understanding, and their inferior recognition relating to spirituality. A person who has the ability to comprehend, to understand, depicting something in a physical context doesn't infringe or undermine the person who understands. And the person who has the limited understanding, it assists him to be able to relate to God, to establish in his mind, in his emotion, that there's a creator that he must serve. Yeah. What is this analogous to? A person comes to visit a wealthy man, and the host will provide meals for the visitor. But it is animals that he has to feed them animal fodder. He has to provide for their sustenance. Here. A visitor comes, he comes himself, and the host is going to provide for himself and for his animals. So he sends him a large amount of barley to feed his animals. But what he needs for himself is a small amount. To a lesser degree. So the same idea. The person who's closer to what we call the inferior mind, the limited person, you have to have all kinds of depictions of God for him to relate to God. But the person who has a more advanced mind, he doesn't need all these depictions, because he has a grasp and understanding, even something which is not as obvious, but you still have to provide. The animal needs, the person who's closer to the animal needs much more, needs greater amount of what? Of volume. It's interesting. It's similar to Chofetz Chaim writes. I mean, if Shlomo was Chochem Mikabodam, and yet people had phenomenal minds, greater minds, but many of the discoveries that we have In modern times, they didn't have in those times. Electricity, the telephone, the camera, photography, all this, recordings. None of this. Why? That's the Chovot HaLevavos addresses that he speaks about this. So he writes, Chovot HaLevavos, he says, at one time, people had greater levels of belief. So even though God is in heaven and we're here, a person believed, because they had an understanding of who God was, that he's aware of everything that goes on the terrestrial level. What we say, what we do, and everything's recorded, identically as it takes place. And they believed it. But he says, but as the generations distanced up from Sinai people, their level of belief weakened. So so Hashem had to introduce into existence that there is a thing, a situation that even at long distance you're able to be aware of a conversation elsewhere. That was the telephone. And what about, it says that, how do you record so much information? Or how do you have evidence that a person actually committed a crime? Well, if you don't have the witnesses there, well, you could have photography. So if on a human level we're able to replicate a scene of the crime, Hashem's not able to replicate it. So we need the human example to reflect on God. If we can, God can't. But that's only a result of what? Of our own level of belief, and our grasp of God's ability weakens. So we need the example within the human realm to reflect, to say, if we can, I mean, God is not able to. It's the same idea. We're talking about the limited person. He needs all these depictions, because otherwise he can't relate. The person who has the greater mind, he doesn't need this. It's like the Rambam writes on Aristotle, that Aristotle was such a genius that he was able to come upon concepts that prophets, only through prophecy, were able to come upon those concepts, because God communicated them those concepts. Aristotle's genius was at such an advanced level, he was able to fathom things that humanly was nearly impossible to fathom, because he had that kind of mind. So that's what he says. The few, they have those minds. They're able, even without all these depictions, to relate to what Hashem is. But that's not. But everybody has to serve God. Everybody has to serve God. How do you know? How do you know what the levels of belief? No, not true. Not true. How far back? Most civilized people believed in God. Even a pagan, he believed in a power. He believed in a deity. He didn't say the world was random. The vast majority of humanity believed in something. They may have believed in a monotheistic being, but deities, everybody believed in. People believed. Today with everything, people ask the average person, the so-called more sophisticated, educated person. It's not so simple. He believes in God. What? Okay, separate. Yeah. Correct. Because if we're able to do that, God, you see, the world is so vast with the galaxies. Maybe you need multiple powers just to keep everything together. So now if you have one chip and you could put endless amounts of information, I don't know what the numbers are. They keep increasing. So what? That's one chip. So you mean God can't formulate all the information and coalesce everything that the world should function as one entity? If we're able to do it, store amounts of information which are unbelievable, right? Data storage. I'm talking about the ones who have relevance to believe. You don't want to believe, you don't believe. I'm talking about the ones who. Most people are not atheists. Right? No. How does God know? What is that? What does it know? So if we know, God doesn't know. That's the Kal V'chomer. That's the end. No, not how could there be a God. No, not how could there. You have to believe in a God. The question is, what is the ability of that God? How could God know? How could God know every moment of our actions? A person can be tracked that everything, his whole life is recorded. Every conversation is recorded. It says you can't count the stars, you know the 300 billion. It says that we don't know the number, but you know the 300 billion. Okay, maybe. That's maybe what we're aware of exists. Things may exist beyond that. Okay? וכן הרחיבה לושן הקודש כל ספרי הנביאים ודברי החסיד מידס הבורא יסבורך בבליצוס גשמיוס אשר זכרנו. He says you find that the works of the prophets, Hasidim, they expound on the what in various ways about the attributes of Hashem. According to the understanding of the masses and the vernacular which is used among human beings. Interesting. The Gemara says, Dibra Torah Kaloshim Le'odom. Right? Even though we say there's nothing superfluous in the Torah, sometimes the Torah like to reiterate something. It like Hoshev, Toshev. Right? Torah, what does it have to reiterate? There's nothing superfluous, of course. When the Torah speaks, it speaks as people speak. I understand. Good. That's what when you learn Musar, you have to. It's a different mindset. To be otherwise you get distracted. Ramza asvar b'mat in inyonim haruchniim asher yavinum asher aseichol haLevavos. Lios hakol shavim bedas mitzias avor yisaleh v'schalik amitas etzem kvoda bedatam. It's like I say, Rashi's commentary on Chumash. A 5-year-old child is able to read it, to study it, and you could have the Vilna Gaon studying Rashi, and you could have Rambam and Ramban studying Rashi. So evidently they understand. Each one draws out of Rashi something else. You could study it on elementary, same thing. Even though the Torah depicts God in many ways, but even within those depictions, it depends who you are, what you grasp, and what you're able to draw from that. Okay? It depends who you are, who's studying it, who's analyzing it, who's evaluating the information. Ernie's getting confused. What's the question? Yeah. So what's difficult with that? God is great. Yeah, but the initial translation has to be correct. You may come up with some outlandish type of understanding which is totally off base. You know? God is big, you know? He's what? He's 50 square miles or a million square miles. I mean, it totally has no relevance to Agodol. It's like, say, he's a great man. He's great. Right? You say, by the way, does he go to the big man shop? I mean, is that a question to ask? If you understand the language, it has no relevance to that. Okay, to be continued.